All right, everyone, welcome to the Toronto Sports Rush live Maple Leafs reaction show brought to you by the Bet Rivers Network. My name is Kyle Andrew. I'm joined once again by hockey analyst Pierre McGuire. We have just witnessed a very thorough beating the Toronto Maple Leafs put on the Calgary Flames tonight. 2 for 2 on the road trip. The big guys came to play tonight, Pierre.
They really did. You can look at the way William Nylander played. Obviously, Kyle with a hat trick in the game. Great empty net goal, by the way. I love the way he outmuscled Mackenzie Weegar at the point of attack, wins the race down the ice and puts it into the empty net. The way he was shooting the puck off the rush, the way he was dominant on the power play. I thought he was spectacular. John Tavares with a power play goal. He was great defensively. He was a great playmaker. But the thing that I admired the most about all the Leaf players, they came to play defensively. It wasn't just all about Joe Wall like it was the other night in Edmonton.
That's right.
The entire team really was there to insulate him and protect him, and I thought they did a very good job.
Yeah, it was a very thorough performance overall. And to say something about how quickly Tavares has just jumped back right into playing the way he was before the break, his brief injury stint. Matthews putting assists on the boards with his complete game. He's become, we've talked about it over and over again, how well-rounded his game is now. And the Leafs once again made incredible adjustments after the first period.
They did. There's no question about it. I give Calgary full marks, by the way. I think Ryan Huska, the coach in Calgary, did a real nice job with his team. Clearly, they don't have the firepower that the Toronto Maple Leafs have, but they've got a lot of vim, vigor, and vitality. They play a hard game, and they're tough to play in that building. And I thought Toronto was prepared for them. They did make some adjustments. They started doing a better job in terms of discipline. They started doing a better job getting pucks behind the Calgary defense. They did a much better job cycling the puck the last 40 minutes of the game. And when they had to defend, they defended really well. The one thing I think they want to look at, and Kyle, we've talked about this before, is just discipline. You can't be taking penalty after penalty after penalty, 2 5-on-3s in the game against Toronto. Outside of that, though, this was a very good performance by the Toronto Maple Leafs, I thought.
Yeah, the first four goals of the game in total were all power play goals. Of course, both of the ones that Leafs gave up were the 5-on-3s, as you mentioned. Without those, this could have been a very one-sided game. But as you say, it does speak to a problem they've had with discipline, often poorly timed discipline. And it's one thing to go down one guy, but then you're down a guy and you're firing pucks over the glass and you're doing all these little things that you have to clean this up. They have lots of time before the playoffs, but you have to figure the way Berube's been able to make adjustments in game, in between games, these things will probably get cleaned up before the playoffs, I would imagine.
Oh, there's 100% they will. One of the things I liked, and this is not a knock on Max Pacioretty, he started the game playing with Johnny Tavares and William Nylander, and then eventually he moves off that line, and Bobby McMann comes on that line. And I thought McMahon was tremendous in the game tonight. The way he back checked, the way he forechecked, obviously a beautiful goal off the rush, the way he shot the puck. Kid from Wainwright, Alberta. He had a good game in Edmonton. He had another good game in Calgary. It's fun to see that. But you talk about in-game adjustments. You're seeing in every single game now from Craig Berube and his staff, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. I thought the road is something they needed. They went into Edmonton. Yeah, they got a good goaltending performance, but they won the game. And you could see how it's starting to solidify their team. Their team game was great tonight as a group. And now, obviously, they get to go continue the road trip. They go into Seattle. They get a day off. Then they go in for an afternoon game in Vancouver, a night game in Toronto, but an afternoon game for the guys on the road. I think this is the best tonic they could have had going into this break for the Four Nations event.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go on a 4-game Western road trip, they've started with the two hardest games without a doubt. They should have two more strong performances in knowing they have 2 weeks off. And they're sitting very pretty right now. Their game is complete. The goaltending situation is beyond solved. We hear now that Stolarz may be back in the lineup as soon as Thursday night. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
They're well primed to have a big run after what is amounting to be the world's longest All-Star break. Pierre, do you think so? Marner was out with an unspecified I believe it was an unspecified lower body injury tonight.
Yeah.
Is that preempting him possibly missing the Four Nations?
Fair question. I don't know the answer. I mean, I think that's up to the Leafs doctors, their management team. If he's not 100%, I don't know why you would let him go. The fact that they were able to overcome the loss of Mitchell Marner tonight, I think, speaks volumes. And one thing, I want to give out a little caveat in terms of praises to Max Domi. I know it hasn't gone great for him offensively this year, but you could see he was the legs a lot for that line with Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes. I thought he did some great things on the forecheck. He really managed the puck well. Thought he insulated those guys defensively very, very well. So Max Domi, even though offensively wasn't what, it's been the type of season that most people are expecting from him, he played a great game tonight, even though he doesn't really get on the score sheet.
Well, and let's be honest, one of the reasons this team is a serious championship threat this season is because guys that we're not seeing their typical production from the offense from Adomi. They are
Mhm.
finding other ways to help a team. And if there's a team that can lose one of their offensive guns, it's the Leafs. They have
No, that's
more than
true.
enough firepower.
Totally agree, Kyle. And the other thing that I think is really cool about this, they play that five forward attack in the power play, and usually it's Mitchell that runs the top of the power play.
Mhm.
Tonight was Morgan Riley. And the power play was really effective for him, and Morgan really looked comfortable doing it. I'm not saying he's the everyday answer for it, but he looked comfortable doing it, and that's a big step forward for him as well.
Yeah, I guess you don't necessarily need an everyday answer when you have five answers, three or four, multiple options of guys to go to. It's
You're
just a
right.
very complete roster, and it's hard not to be excited about them if you're a Leafs fan right now. And speaking of which, they're on this Western road trip. What effect is it? And this is beyond other Canadian teams. Almost every building they go into, and in some more than others, they have tremendous road support, like tremendous amounts of blue jerseys in the crowd tonight. Go Leaf Go chants. You hear them in Calgary, you hear them in Tampa, you hear them all over the league. How much of a boost is that for a team like the Leafs to have such support on the road?
It's gigantic. And you know what's interesting about your point, Kyle? They might hear more noise on the road from their fans than they
Yes,
do in Toronto. It really,
yes,
I mean, outside of a playoff game or a spectacular goal, it's a pretty docile environment in Toronto.
very
But
corporate.
once you
Yes,
get on the road, you see it, and your point is really smart, I think. The truth of the matter is, you hear the "Go Leaf Go" chants in
everywhere.
Calgary. You hear them in Winnipeg. You hear them in Edmonton. You're gonna hear them in Vancouver Saturday night. I don't know how much you're gonna hear them in Seattle. I just don't know. But I do, I think it is a really cool thing. I was with the Montreal Canadiens for 3 years working on the media side, and we would go out west around the holiday season. I can tell you right now, uh, it was pretty amazing to see the response to the Canadians whenever they would go. But I don't think the Canadians' response is anywhere near what it is with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I really don't.
Right. Yeah. It's I can't think. Maybe there's an NFL team or two, or maybe the Yankees in baseball or something. But in the NHL, they are definitely on their own as far as that type of a road reaction goes.
No, I
So I
agree.
want to.
I would agree. The one thing I will say, when I was coaching in Hartford, whenever the New York Rangers or the Boston Bruins came into our building in Hartford, we were definitely the road team, even though it was our building. Their fans just took over our building. It was unbelievable to see how that would take place.
Remind me, did you coach Mike Liute?
Oh,
You weren't there when he was there.
Mike was be there before I was. I had Sean Burke and Frank
Yeah. Okay.
Petrangelo,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, no, just a little
Mike
different era.
Liute was one of my favorite goaltenders
Well,
coming up. I was a
hey, I
goalie,
tell you
so
what, Mike was a great goalie, and
yeah.
Mike has been an amazing agent. He's done such a great job for
Yeah.
his constituency. It's
Truly.
unbelievable. He's really
Love
good at
love to
his
see
job.
guys
Mike's
staying
really
around the game
good.
in
Yeah.
unusual capacities like that. I guess that's not unusual, but okay. So I want to talk very briefly about the break coming up. It's a 2 week break, kind of an unprecedented quote unquote all-star break type of thing. The Leafs are sending four guys, maybe only three if Marner doesn't end up there. What is the rest of the team doing in that time? Are guys free to, go down to Mexico and get some sun for a week, or was there a mandatory skates? How does that look from a coaching end?
No, I think everybody's got to be away for a certain period of time, and then they can come back.
Mhm.
Only injured players, as far as I know, are allowed to use a facility and be there with quote unquote management people. But I got to believe a lot of guys are going to take some downtime. They should, especially the younger players. Believe it or not, they really do. They need it. This is tough for a lot of these guys. Joe Wall's never played this many games in the NHL. He needs a little
Right.
bit of a break. He really does. And you made the great point, Kyle, about Stolars. He's going to be coming in, whether he plays on Thursday night in Seattle or Saturday afternoon in Vancouver. You got to think he's playing one of the next two games. But Joe Wall needs a break. He does. I mean, it's just been too much hockey for him.
Well, let's speculate on Stellaris again. Would it be wiser of the Leafs to just keep him out for 2 more games and then add 2 more weeks of rest? It's
Only
not
if
like they
you
have a
know,
goaltending problem right
yeah,
now.
only if the doctors say, you know what, he's ready to go. I'd get
Okay,
him in. And here's why. I wouldn't want him to get so stale. I'd like to have him get
fair
a
enough.
dress rehearsal, Cal, before they go into the break. But if the doctors say, you know what, there's a chance he could re-injure himself, I would hold him out. I really would. But if they say, yeah, he's 100% ready to go, give him a chance. One of the next two. I wouldn't say both. I'd say one of the next two.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, the doctors make those decisions. They know best, and he's giving them feedback constantly, I'm certain. For all we know, that scenario could have already happened over the last couple of games where they're like, things are fine. Take a couple more, sort of thing. Get a start in, maybe two. Maybe he'll get both of the next games. Who knows, right? Um,
You don't know.
you don't know. I want to shift gears to around the NHL. Busy night in the NHL tonight. What were there? 14 games,
14
I think. I can't.
games, 14.
I don't know how someone like yourself keeps track of. I don't know how many screens you can travel with, Pierre, but let's we have to talk about Ovechkin right now. He put another one in tonight. He's only 17 back, and
Amazing.
earlier this year when he was missing games, we weren't sure he would have a chance to catch Gretz this year, but it's looking more and more like he's going to take a run at that this season. Let's talk about him. Talk about the season he's having missed so many games.
It's not just the season, it's the career, it's the way he's carried himself, the ambassadorship, the maintaining of the flag in Washington and the way he carries himself around international events, the way he travels with the team. I've seen him in action. He's an amazing ambassador for the sport. In my lifetime, he's the best goal scorer that's been in the league. I remember watching Guy Lafleur play when I was a kid in Montreal. I remember the late Henri Richard playing. I remember all these great players in the 70s. I remember, obviously, Wayne Gretzky and Yari Curry and Mike Bossy and all those players in the 80s. And then you get to the 90s and you're like, okay, there are all these good players, Lemieux and Gretzky and all those guys. But then you get past, 2005 and you're saying, who's this guy from Russia? He's like a machine. And he just doesn't stop scoring. And it's, obviously Ovechkin. I've never seen a player shoot the puck as hard with so much consistency as Alexander Ovechkin. Never.
And comes off his stick so quickly too, which it makes it very difficult on the goaltenders.
It eats the goalies up. It's a really good point, Cal, and it does. And I've talked to goalies about it, and they say it's on his stick and it's off his stick, and it's so fast and it's so hard. A lot of guys can shoot it fast, but they don't shoot it hard. His shot's not just fast; it's heavy. It hits the hurt. I remember back in 2000 and I'm going to say 2010, 2010. Chicago played Philly in the final, but before Philly got to the final, they had to get through Montreal. Montreal, to get to where they had to get through Washington. And I'll never forget Yaro Spacek and Roman Hamrlik and Josh Georges, three guys who were playing on the right side of the Canadiens on defense. Whenever Ovechkin was on the power play, they would take different times in the penalty kill to get in the lane and block his shots. And it's a huge reason why the Canadiens won that series. Ovechkin's pucks never got to the net. But if you would have seen the bodies of Josh Georges, Yaro Spacek, and Roman Hamrlik after that series, I'm just telling you, Kyle, it was unbelievable. These guys were maimed. It was insane what
They
they
looked
were
like
doing.
they were about to become banana bread.
Yeah, it was just amazing. It really was.
Okay, so Ovechkin sits right now, I believe he's 12th in the league in scoring. He's 40 years old now, right? He's played 15 or 16 less games this season than everyone ahead of him on the scoring list.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to catch Gretzky. But how far out of reach could he score 1,000 goals? Because he is known for being an elite athlete on and off the ice. He trains hard. He takes care of his body. Does he have 2 more, maybe 3 more seasons left in him?
It depends on how. I think a lot of that comes down to how great the Capitals do after the regular season. I mean, if he tastes championship blood, and he's tasted it a little bit by winning the cup, obviously in 2018. If he starts to taste that this team's going to be as good as they have been during the regular season, he might be able to stick around for a little longer. They got a lot of guys doing a lot of heavy lifting there. He's one of the guys, but they've done some really good. And I got to tell you right now, Kyle, and I'm really comfortable telling you this, the Washington Capitals have the best prospect outside the NHL right now, and it's Ryan Leonard from Boston College. And that guy's going to be a machine when he gets to the Cap. He's NHL ready right now. I'd be shocked if he's not playing in the postseason for them this year. He's a really special player. And so you add another big body to go with Tommy Wilson and to go with Pierre-Luc Dubois and all these Dylan Strome. You had all these big guys there, and Ovechkin. They're going to be a beast to play against the Washington Capitals.
Washington's a very well-run organization. They've been very good for a very long time. They're going to be good for the next couple of seasons. And a lot of times when we see someone pursuing a record like this, they're kind of doing it to the detriment of their squad. Like, they're keeping them around. We want them to score the goal in our jersey, but that is not the case here. He is scoring at an elite level, and I think 950 is on the table for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. Here's the other thing, and I don't want to bore the people in Toronto with this. The Hershey Bears have won the last two Calder Cups, the American Hockey League Championship. That's Washington's farm team. They got a plethora of prospects coming through there. I'm just telling you right now, they got a lot of guys coming. It's not like they're going to have to spend a lot of time reloading. They got guys internally already that are ready to help the reload. They're just that good an organization right now.
Okay, so let's get back to the Leafs very briefly before we say goodnight to the constituents. Again, they're 2 for 2 on this road trip right now. They have a very, very realistic chance of going 4 for 4 or even 3 and 4 on this trip, which is an absolutely great way to go into the break, sitting pretty for the playoffs. And you've talked about it with Julie. You've talked about it with me before. What do they need? What's the icing on the cake here for the second half before the break? What's the last piece of the puzzle?
I think if they could get an elite third center, more of a 2B than a 3A.
Okay.
Somebody that if Tavares ever went down, you'd have somebody that could jump in and fill it. And I also think if they could add one more puck-moving defenseman, I'm a little greedy. If they could get 2 just to insulate and ensure their hand, I think that would be great. I've been saying it since the start of the year, and I'm going to stick with it. The Leafs are really well built. They're amazingly well coached, Cal. I'm blown away by what they've done from last year to this year in terms of how they're playing games. And, can the power play be more consistent? Yes, but you're starting to see it come to, where it needs to be. And I've just been really impressed. Domi tonight, that said a lot to me about where the team is. He's sacrificing points to play the role that's being given to him. And that's how you win championships. You get guys to accept the role that's been given to them, and they don't complain about it. And I saw total buy-in by him and all his teammates tonight again.
Well, Pierre, Gordon Gekko said it best. Greed is good. I think I'm with you. They should go all in right now. This is the time to do it. If they can grab those 3 guys or even just 2 of them, they will be sitting absolutely pretty. So once again, Pierre, thank you for your expert analysis. Another big Leafs win tonight on the road in Calgary. Thank you for watching us on Toronto Sports Rush. My name is Kyle Andrew, joined once again by Pierre McGuire. We'll see you next time.